You are live. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. We will now call the meeting to order. The Purchasing Oversight Committee for August 18th is now in session. We will make sure that we have a quorum. I am the chairman of the Purchasing Oversight Committee.
Kelly Robinson, Vice Chair of the Committee, present.
Roger Perry, Deputy County Administrator, present.
Tiffany Stewart Stanley, Assistant County Administrator, present.
LaTanya Ammons, Director of Procurement, present.
Wonderful. So we do have a quorum. Everyone is present. We will now go to our agenda. I'll ask that we will approve or amend the agenda accordingly. Are there any?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to amend the agenda and remove travel policy under new business discussion.
Remove travel policy. Are there any objections to this amendment?
So it's moved.
No, ma'am.
I have a motion and a second to move the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the motion carries. So we will remove travel policy. The next is the approval of the minutes from the June 16th, 2022 meeting. Are there any corrections, updates, or deletions regarding those meeting minutes?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
If there are none, the meetings will stand approved as presented. We will go on to our next agenda item, which is old business. Ms. Ammons, would you like to take that?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to, I put together a presentation to provide a comprehensive update on the P card status for Douglas County. And so, Sierra, if I'm able to share.
You're all clear to share.
Okay. Okay, is everyone, can you see my screen? It's the Douglas County Procurement Card presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
So the procurement card program was approved by the Douglas County Board of Commissioners in October of 2021. So the purpose of this presentation is just to provide an oversight as to the status as of today, and then give an outlook on where we are in the future. We've distributed cards, and I felt like it was a time to let everyone know what's going on and where we are in a formal process or presentation. So as we know, the purpose of the procurement card was to establish a faster and more effective cost method for authorized employees to make purchases. Authorized employees, it's not a mechanism to go out and spend more money. It was created, and we're going to utilize it as a method of just shifting how we are making particular purchases. And so the program will streamline payments as well by reducing the administrative burdens and costs associated with traditional methods of payments, i.e. a PO, following the PO process, the receipt of goods, and then a check being mailed to our vendors. We are able to facilitate that right now, quickly, easy, and simple. The next slide is the current state of the counties. We had a lot of scattered purchases as well, right? We purchased items on the procurement card. We purchased items through store credit cards. We had blanket purchase orders. And so the P card would allow us to have a synergy, and we'll talk about the goals on the next slide, but that is one of the benefits of having a procurement card throughout the county. No more scattered purchases, and that is our goal. So, as I stated, our goal is really to centralize all purchases via the procurement card and or New World, which is our ERP system. And so to just reiterate, it is a shift in purchasing tools, but the card also allows for oversight, which can be instant, reporting robust, and it allows for us to audit our charges more efficiently. And what we mean by audit charges, yes, we do have purchases that could be approved But when you have a blanket purchase order for a retail store, the individuals go into the store and make a purchase and they charge it against the card and submit it. We have no oversight, no reporting, or no audit ability to say, wait a minute, you bought 10 last year. Did we really need 10? We bought 20. Are we buying items that should be inventoried? And so because of the reporting that the Bank of America work system allows, we're able to get into the nuts and bolts from an audit perspective. If the procurement card is used, and ultimately in the future, we will also like to audit POs. So the other goal is we would like to cancel the cards, cancel store cards, right? No, first it's cancel credit cards. I apologize. We want to avoid paying late fees, interest rates, and we want to ensure that we have an adequate credit limit across the county. Two, we want to cancel store cards. We currently have Walmart, Lowe's, Sam's, and so by canceling those store cards, we're able to, again, move that, shift it, and use the procurement card where it's centralized. And then lastly, the most important is shortening the purchasing cycle. There are businesses that we do, like we have rentals of equipment that's monthly. So when we say shorten the purchasing cycle, we don't have to do a PO for those. Those types of purchases can also be put on a purchasing card. So it's not just store items, but it's also things that we purchase, whether it's a good or service from those vendors on a regular basis. We can also use a procurement card, move out of the purchasing cycle. And in some instances, we're able to save money because we do have a vendor that charged us monthly for sending them a check, and they accept Visa, MasterCard. And so we've shifted, and then we're putting that rental price on a purchasing card. Next, we talked about the benefits, tighter control over company spending, fast and flexible, clear accountability, lower opportunity for fraud, and just simple direct spend. So we currently use Synovus as a credit card, and we are moving away from that. But I did want to highlight this particular slide. In the year 2020, 2022, for what I have access to, right? These fees are not in totality, but for what I have access to, we have paid a total of approximately $1,200 in late fees and $692 in finance charges. And that's just in the last 2 years based upon the cards that I have access to. This does not include the courts, sheriffs, and I'm not saying that they do have those charges. I'm just pointing out that this is what we have incurred in the last 2 years, right? So why I moved to Bank of America, we'll no longer have those fees, right? We'll no longer be charged late fees and our finance charges. And even though those amounts are small, they can still add up over time, and it's just spending that could be used for something else. So we have a distribution schedule. Just wanted to highlight in phase 1, we'll consider that our training, program, and policy development phase. Phase 2, department heads and select managers were provided a card. Phase 3 was our board of commissioners, department heads, and identified employees. And I do want to say that the commissioners were on down the line because we did not want to put a card in their hand first, and we did not know how, we couldn't run the program from an optimization perspective. So we kind of wanted to get some of the bugs out before we handed it to our board of commissioners. But in no way do we put our commissioners behind or last. It was just for making sure that we knew what we were doing. I think we're in phase 4 now, starting to look at some reports and analysis, right? There's just some questions about can we and can we not. I pulled a report and I had a question about 2 charges that looked like they were not, should not have been authorized necessarily. However, there was an explanation, so it just required a little more research. But I am happy that the individual employee had the card to use to handle the business of the county, and it was over the weekend. So again, another advantage of having that access, right in their hands when they needed it. And then phase 5 will be our elected officials and employee expansion. And what I mean by employee expansion is there are other swim lanes that can use the procurement card, one being our office supplies. I'm planning to move them. Right now, we currently, put it in the vendor system, and then we put it into our system, and then it releases it in the vendor system. It takes a lot of time and a lot of steps. So my goal is for those employees who purchased via office supplies, that they will be automated with what's called like a ghost card, right? It's like their P card, but they don't have it in their hands. It's uploaded, and then they're able to receive their office supplies a lot quicker. I think right now, I would say we're averaging a week to 2 weeks to get an office supply because of our current process. But if you need something today, we really need to get it into the employee's hands as soon as possible. So that's part of like employee expansion, and also looking at other areas where employees could use a P card. So again, it's just a shift in how we're currently spending. It is not equipping them with more spend. Just a quick distribution stat. As of yesterday, we have 52 users and 31 card holders. So 52 users are those who can log into the Bank of America Work system. And that includes card holders and their proxies. And proxies are those who can conduct business on behalf of their card user. So if you have an assistant, if someone's going to code for you, they're considered a proxy and also a user. But again, they do not have the card. So policy or possible policy impacts. We have travel policy, we have accounting, and I see an error. We have the commissioner's budget approvals. There will be a small impact to travel, and so we'll discuss that in future. From a policy impact to accounting, it is just a method that they will be paid. And for the commissioner's budget approvals, there's no impact. And so I added that for the public because we know the commissioner's expenses are approved. And so we want to let them know that the bill isn't paid before the county expenses are approved. The bill is paid after the expenses are approved at the BOC meeting at the end of the month. So we're not paying at the beginning and then the approval comes later. So I did want to highlight that for the public. And when we say budget approvals, not the overall approval from a county budget perspective.
I was just about to correct you.
I'm sorry. Yes, the expenses that are provided and approved for every single month. And so I will make that correction. But for the public, it's not the overall budget. No, it is the monthly expenses that are on the agenda and are approved every month. So one of the things that people may be concerned about that we've put in place, what I like about policy and controls is that they are evolutionary, where they evolve based upon the needs. And so since this is a new program for the county, this is where we're going to start. And as we develop and grow and mature, it may change just slightly. But I wanted to let everyone know that we have developed specific policies and procedures. We are ensuring that there are proper roles and responsibilities and separation of duties. We're establishing spending limits. We're providing training, routine reconciliation, monitoring of transactions, as well as maintaining proper documentation. And we've encouraged all card holders to safeguard the P cards, just as they would their own personal credit cards. And that is the end of the P card update.
Thank you, Ms. Ammons. Before I open the floor for questions, I just have a couple for you in regards to the distribution of the P cards. Did individuals have to sign for these? Were they made aware of certain procedures in the policy?
Yes. So at the time of before distribution, the initial group was provided a training on how to use the card. And as part of the distribution process, they had to sign forms that were developed, a request form, a form stating that they would not use the card, but for business purposes, and that if they do violate that policy, there'd be disciplinary actions and could lead up to including a possibility of leading up to termination. And that is for card holders and proxies as well. And so we do have forms that have been developed, and we're right now auditing the forms to make sure we have the proper forms from everyone. We still have a few more to distribute just because of the timing, and that was with the last group. But yes, part of training is this is how you use the card. Please sign the form to say that you agree to use the card appropriately, and also that the card can be taken away from you if you violate policies. But also there's a Georgia state law that says that you will be prosecuted as well. So that's Georgia law for P card misuse. And depending on the dollar amount, it could be a felony.
I'm glad you stated that so that the public and those who are watching understands that P card is something that the state of Georgia does oversee, and they look at and they take it very seriously. So it actually adds a level of accountability for our county as opposed to just giving us carte blanche to spend how we want to. So I'm very glad you highlighted that. My second question to you is if the card is lost, stolen, what are the procedures to turn off the card? Or do we have fraud liability?
Yes, so if the card is lost or stolen, the individual card holder has been instructed, it is in the draft of the policy, to call the bank immediately to have the card shut down. Okay. And if they also can call me. So I would ask them to call the bank first and then call me, because I can log into the work system and the other administrators, and we can temporarily shut down the card. Okay. So we do have that ability as well.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. I will open the floor. Are there any questions regarding this presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Vice Chairman Robinson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make sure I appreciate the work that was done on this. Obviously, my first job was doing a purchasing card back in 1991. That was my very first promotion a generation ago. It was the Visa MasterCard purchase card rollout. They called it Procurement card at that time, as well as small business. So I have an affinity for this type of program. See that they're still using it today, and the power that it represents and the value that it brings for organizations. That being said, I just want to bring one comment to clarity. Y'all were mentioning earlier about expenses, and especially with the Board of Commissioners, and I want to do this for the record. I want to bring Madam ACA into this conversation. A couple of years ago, the Board of Commissioners had local legislation that dealt with our expense account. Can you please clarify what that was about? And I want to make sure that the alignment of this there's an alignment of our policies, which is something that we've been pushing on for the past couple of years, alignment of all of our policies. Madam ACA, can you distinguish the difference between what the expense account is about, please?
Thank you, Vice Chairman Robinson. Good afternoon, Chairman Carthen, and everyone on the committee. So back in, I believe it's been a couple of years, the original expense account amount was $300. And so what the Board of Commissioners did was pass local legislation to increase that amount to allow the expenses to be $500. And those are expenses that are incurred by our Board of Commissioners when they're conducting business on behalf of the county, when they use their own personal funds that they can be reimbursed for. So that's what those funds were. Those funds were allocated for when they want to use personal funds. That's the amount that they can be reimbursed for up through the county. And then of course those amounts have to be approved by the Board of Commissioners because it's a reimbursement.
Okay, so I want to thank you for that. I want to distinguish the difference with using the word expenses loosely. That's personal expenses. It's reimbursement, which is separate than the funding mechanism that we use for an operating budget that the Board of Commissioners passed last year. Board of Commissioners has its own distinguished, like a department head, its own operating budget, which is separate as a funding mechanism than our expense account. We have both. So those things that if we use our expense account, you must publish that on a monthly basis according to local legislation or state law. When you're not using that, you're using your monthly operating budget, then you must comply with everybody else, all of the department heads, which is, it's not published. I want to distinguish that and make sure that language is clear in the legislation that we ultimately will take to the full board of commissioners. You may want to double back with Madam ACA and the county attorney accordingly with that to make sure there is alignment, especially as we use our narrative in describing it. Madam Chair, I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Madam ACA, for clarifying that. I think that helps the full board as well as the public to understand the difference between expenses and approved budgets. Approved budgets are what we do at the end of the year. Each budget goes into that particular department's column, and they spend accordingly to what we have approved that is within their budget. Expenses are those things that we pay for personally out of pocket, like I paid for the book bag supplies last month that I distributed this month. So that was on the expense report that we just passed on last Tuesday. So there are different things, expenses versus budgets. So thank you for clearing that up. Are there any other questions in regards to this presentation?
Madam Chair, no questions, but I would like to make a comment and just publicly thank all those who served on the committee for this implementation. We had an issue with the current Synovus card process that was in place, as we all know, which was the energy behind the implementation of a P-card program. Now, I don't have any experience with a P-card program, but just being involved in this entire process, I know that it took a little bit longer than we anticipated, but please know that it was a very, very thorough process. Meetings with Bank of America and their representatives, with the procurement director coming on kind of in the middle of the process. I also want to thank Justine Haywood for her involvement in this as well, and the folks from the finance department. It was a total team effort, and we're at the point now. I asked Latanya to kind of halt distribution of the cards so we can, just look back over the process, see where, if there's anything that needs to be tightened up, if we're missing anything, let's make sure that we have it so that, in the event that anybody wants to ask for anything in regards to our P-card program, that we have everything covered. So just a big kudos to the committee that served in the implementation of this. We still have, some things that are ongoing that we have to tighten up. But by far and large, I believe that the issues that we had with the Synovus card, we have remedied that. And I yield, but that brings me the satisfaction of giving kudos to staff.
Excellent. Thank you for taking that moment of privilege to say thank you to the team that actually put it together. Yes. Ms. Job to Ms. Amos, who came in here and did this in the middle of, we had already started it, came in the project. So we really appreciate your due diligence. And I'm glad to see that we're on phase 4, which is the reporting, analysis, and audits. Hopefully this will help us out when we go into our doing the county audits and looking at things to better help us to budget as well. All of those departments. I'm hoping Madam ACA and Deputy County Administrator will take a look at those analysis and then kind of help streamline the directors as they get with them in a couple of months. So I think this is good timing, and I'm hopeful that we will start to use that data to give us a better direction of how we need to distribute those budgets. We will go on from here to our next item, which is new business, and it would be our P-card policy.
Madam Chair?
Yes, you have the floor.
Thank you. So what would be the next step in order to enact this? Where do you see this going from here? We're doing it here at the committee level. What happens next? How does it get enacted?
Well, if you want me to, Ms. Amos,
Yes.
Okay. So now that we have the P cards and the distribution and we're in the reporting and looking at it, I think the P card policy would be the next step. We would look at that to ensure that the policy meets the goals and the recommendations from this purchasing oversight committee. And that policy would be taken, I'm assuming, to the full board so that everybody could get a chance to look at it. And so then that way, the policy matches what we have already started doing. Ms. Amos did come to me and ask, could she do this beforehand? And I asked her not to. I asked her to hold it into this committee meeting so that we could actually look at it. But I did know that people wanted to use those cards, including us, on our recent trips. So we didn't want to hold up the distribution. It was also a chance to do the trial and error phase. So I'm kind of glad she didn't put the commissioners first, let other people go first, as opposed to us being the guinea pigs. But now the next step would be to ensure that the policy lines up accordingly. Is there anything that I missed, Ms. Amons?
No, you didn't miss anything.
Okay.
Madam.
Does that answer your question, Vice Chair Robinson?
Yeah, I know the answer. I just wanted to say it for the record. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Trying to make it work, okay. Thank you. Ms. Amons, you have the floor.
Yes, so as we move on to new business, the next item is P card policy. And so I would just carry on, would like to present the proposed P card policy to the full board. I would like to have this committee just review it again. I know it's our first one, but I want to make sure that I haven't missed any, interchange between expenses and budgets, right? That we're clear. Anything that could be have any ambiguity, and also just make sure that it's tight, going out again. I believe that the policies are fluid, but I like the first one to be as close to perfect as possible. But yes, I would like to present this to the full board and put this out to, even for the public to review. A lot of people get concerned when they hear, oh, credit card, running wild, but please note that in policy, in the draft, I did reference the law that Georgia says that you will be prosecuted. And one of the things I have said in training is I have no problem shutting off a card. I mean, none whatsoever. And also, but I also want to give everyone the opportunity throughout the county to use P card or New World. I mean, when we do away with the Walmart card, it's P card or New World. We're just trying to centralize so we know where we're spending our money. That's one item, just, from a category perspective. The other item is it lifts the burden off of other departments as far as running around and trying to figure out. And so we're saving money. The savings is on human capital. We can concentrate on something else when, our finance department is spending an hour or so, 2, 3 every month trying to figure out who made this charge, where, but as a procurement professional, I don't know what you made the charge to, what it's for, and so it's twofold. And so, yes, I would like the policy just to be, reviewed one more time before we submit it to the full board and in the public.
Thank you for that. And I have had a chance to read over the policy, the purchasing card agreement policy. Although this is Douglas County's first time, you were very thorough. I think it's about I want to say it was about 12 to 11 pages.
Yes, it is not two.
It's not two. So I did take the time to read it. You were very thorough and explained exactly what you stated, and it even referenced now, when you swipe your card, you don't have to be worried about sales tax and use, right? That will also be taken into consideration for government. That's a part of that savings as well, and not having to track that down and come back and redo that.
Yes, and so for the public, when Chair talked about sales use and tax, I experienced this. As a government entity, we do not pay sales use and tax. However, when I traveled earlier this year and attended a conference, because I was paying with my personal credit card, the hotel had to charge me tax because they didn't know that I was using a government resource, right, or funding avenue. And so we had to pay taxes, where with the use of a P card, we would not, and that's across the board. And so, yes, we are working with our P card holders, and as far as having a tax exempt form and go to some businesses, some are a little more interesting than others as far as trying to relieve us of that tax bill, but we're working through it. And so, yes, it saves the county money and having to go through, the back end for those funds. Again, talking about human capital and just trying to resolve that issue up front.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that clarity. Are there any questions or additions to the P card policy? If everyone has had a chance to look at it. Okay, Vice Chair Robinson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I agree with the sentiment that very well done, Madam Procurement. You did a great job. It is very thorough, very thoughtful, and we hear your heart regarding the seriousness and responsibility associated with this. But we're like, all right now live wisely now. And so I appreciate you even saying that on the floor. I just wanted just one side comment, as you've mentioned before in your opening, coming into organization, that what you said, that finance is the cousin or second cousin to procurement.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful that, and I recognize our new CFO is only 2 weeks old. I don't even think she's got a paycheck yet. Mm-hmm. But I'm hopeful that you will meet with her and again, let her share her and have her be inclusive in this process as well, as far as the touch points that this could impact her. I'm asking that you make sure she also is involved before it reaches the full Board of Commissioners. That's all I ask, Madam Chair. I yield back.
Thank you. And yes, I will reach out. I have, and we've talked, because as we said, yes, we're kissing cousins, finance and procurement. And so we've definitely been working together to make sure that not only our self-interest, meaning our individual department interest, and by interest, not me personally, but just from a procurement perspective and finance line up. And so as we also have that overlap. So yes, I will be working with her.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, before I yield, and what is your preference? Do you prefer that our county attorney see this before it gets to the full Board of Commissioners, or after we agree in legislatively on the full floor?
So my preference would be that, today we make a recommendation, we send it to the attorney, and then it goes onto the full board. And at that time, either Madam ACA or Deputy County Administrator will put it on the agenda as they see fit.
So be it.
Okay.
Yield.
With that, do I have a motion to approve the P card policy as presented today?
So moved as presented.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I have a motion and a second.
One question. As long as there's the clarity of the comments I made earlier, that there's some things that were shared here, that they're also addressed before it gets to them, so that the voices were heard in this meeting. Thank you.
Absolutely. That is noted. Any other additional comments or discussion? Being none, I will call a question to order. When I call your name, please state whether you agree or not. Vice Chair Robinson?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Ms. Amons?
Yes.
Ms. Stewart Stanley?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So the motion passes unanimously 5-0. We will go on to our next agenda item. And again, Ms. Amons, great work. Great work.
Thank you all. I couldn't do it without the team.
Oh my goodness. When I started reading, I was like, okay, the next page and the next page. I was like, she's not going to miss anything with this.
I was trying not to.
I don't think you did. So our next agenda item.
Next agenda item will be the contract status update. So when I started, that was a hot ticket item for the board, is to get the contracts in order. It's been slower than what I would have liked. And so we had to put everything on an Excel spreadsheet, right? We had them, we spoke before. So maybe a little bit of old business, but we spoke before previously that the contracts, we were in the testing module in New World. There were some hiccups there, and the hiccups were just from a process perspective, not with New World specifically. But I'm coming for the committee to show what I have as far as contracts, and also some of the categories. And I think I need to start with the requirements of what we want to see and then try to build New World from there and work through the other process. So what my team did was we pulled all the agendas for this year and we noted everything that we thought was a contract and the dollar amounts associated with that. We do have some statuses. I wasn't going to present them today, but even though it is a contract, this is basically everything that the board approved. Does not necessarily mean it has gone through legal yet. Doesn't necessarily mean it has a vendor assigned to it yet. It doesn't mean that it's completed, meaning that it's closed out or it has finished going through legal review. This is just based on the agenda items, all right? And so as of today, since January 1, we believe that we have $29 million worth of contracts that the board has approved. Kind of broke this up in categories: maintenance, software, memorandum of understanding, other. Don't know quite how to categorize these. Goods, and then professional services, which is our largest bucket of $25 million. And so here's where we are right now. This is just high level. We're working internally with the team on just how to, kind of route the contracts. But this is what the board has approved. And it does not include sheriff's department, and it does not include grants. Just straight maintenance, software, memorandums of understanding, the bucket of other goods and professional services. We're at $29.3 million. Some of the money we've spent, meaning the contract is closed out. The others are still open, and some are still waiting on the bid to close, or, to be, even though it wasn't awarded, the contractors haven't been reviewed yet. So from this committee, not sure what you want to see, at what purpose, at what point, right? That's those that we spent after it's been signed by legal, but once it has a purchase order, because there's a gap still there, as well. But this is what we have so far based upon the agenda items that the board has said yes to.
Okay. So this one is a lot because contracts is the crux of how we get a lot of things done in the county, right?
Yes.
So there are some processes that I think we need to clean up. And even, hearing you go through it, it kind of raised some red flags in my mind as to how we are doing it. Should the contract even be on the agenda if it hasn't been seen by legal before it gets to us? I've always been in the mindset, and I'm still the youngest or the newest on the board of commissioners, but I've always thought in my mind that it should not hit the board of commissioners agenda until it has been vetted by legal, until they've cleaned up everything, and until the vendor that you all have secured that this vendor is okay with that contract as is. Then it comes to the full board to say, okay, everybody is in agreement. Are you all in agreement? All the I's have been dotted, all the T's have been crossed, and then we see it and we award the contract. But that's just my personal opinion. There are 4 other members who may think totally different. So there is some opportunity, I believe, to clean up this process.
Okay. Yes.
Are there any other comments regarding the contracts?
Yes, ma'am.
Vice Chair Robinson, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. I always try to distinguish the difference between the executive branch and the legislative branch. So I'm going to stay on my side. As a legislator, I don't get involved in the day-to-day per se. My job is to appropriate. And there is a part of, to your point, vetting that needs to be cleaned up according to policies that are already in play. Whatever the rules are, whatever the policy is, make sure it comports, make sure it's clean. At some point, let legal look at it. But at some point, you'll hit the full floor of the board. Even though you've vetted 100%, the board has the power to shape it, even at that point. Right? So it will still go back to legal if we make some type of condition associated with it. So I don't want to make it so ironclad that, like, well, the board can make a condition. The board can approve it in this formal legislative process. We can change the contract. So I think the point is to prepare the contract for consideration as much as you can But at some point, we will ultimately weigh in based on however 3 people come together at a minimum to shape it. So there is a workflow process. What I'm listening to is workflow.
Mhm.
That's executive. I'm going to lean to y'all guys to figure out what is the best way to run a contract through, to get it prepared to come through for authorization. And our job is to authorize the chair to sign. Well, we'll make sure we weigh in our conditions in there. And once we appropriate it, okay, legal, make sure that what we just said in this meeting, in that meeting minutes, gets in that contract. And at that point, then you're off to the races. So what is it that what really is the ask here? What direction would you like to receive right now from us in this committee? I mean, you've done an assessment. I get it, a lot of moving parts. What is the ask?
Well, my goal initially was just to inform, to let you know that I heard you when I was hired. Contracts was important. And so here is the state as I see it. So with this assessment, that does help shape how we should move forward and lend those discussions as to how we want to move forward. And so those are discussions that we did have even this week as to the workflow on our side of the house. And so I don't have a recommendation as of today, nor necessarily an ask. I like to, I always seek opinions and information, but here is the list of what we have. And so maybe we didn't know. Sometimes it's not till you really put it on paper when you see it and you're like, oh, okay, which kind of goes into, this lends into my philosophy of just knowing what the money is, right? These are just contracts. This is just another form of, do we really know where the money is going? And here is another view. So now how do you want to see this, right? In what avenue? And so if you want the contracts first and we come to the board, that helps the workflow. And then it also helps paint a picture to say, hey, as of today, we are here where there aren't any gaps that I talked about initially based upon the assumptions that I made to come up with this total. And so this form, I look to it as one to say, this is what's going on in procurement. Let's just talk about it, and just a different view and just some conversation. And just right now, based upon what you all approved, we're at 29 million. Does that mean that we are going to spend it? Not necessarily. If something falls through, we can say, no, never mind, the money goes back into, the budget. But it was really a conversation piece. I'm not asking to go before the full board, but just know that we are working from a contract perspective. And then once we do complete the workflow, so we have a meeting, we have several people who we're going to tighten up the workflow. Then we'll look for, January, February to say, here we are. But we are working on the contracts and we're constantly looking for improvements.
Well, to that point, I appreciate your level of granularity. So what I'm hearing is that there's 5 types of procurement, in which contracts happens to be the biggest one. Mm-hmm. And 29 to 25 million, that's about 80%. So 80% of what we do is contracts. Mm-hmm. And the rest of them are distributed across the other ones, including other that you'll eventually, you'll label it. You'll define what that should be. Mm-hmm. So, but this is, to your point, this is what we've been waiting on. Mm-hmm. We've been talking about this for at least a decade. That the chairs never knew how much they were spending. They have no clue beyond just, the amount of money that we spend. There's so we couldn't respond to anything because nothing could be provided. They had no clue. And so I think what this does is now you're defining procurement types. And at some point you'll get within that. So it's a deeper dive. So you're framing it broadly. I got it. I'm listening. Everything you're saying, got it. Now you got to go deep. And I think you're on the right track. It's a lot, and it's just really bring order. I think at this point, yes, keep going. There needs to be order. It just organically grew this way. It's just right. And you're looking at it like, don't try to retrofit something like it may not even be the best way to do it. But you had to take an assessment. But the point is like, well, if you don't like that, change it. Bring forth the recommendation. So you got my full support on this. But at the end of the day, it's not necessarily the process; it's the information. Mm-hmm. Our job is to make decisions, right? At some point, I've got to make a decision up or down. It's got to be based on a dollar, some volume, or some type of threshold. And you're one of the keys to that. And it's how we're spending. And that's key. to make decisions. Then you'll get into volume purchases. I mean, you just getting started, and you know the power of what you got to do, but you got to organize how Douglas County is unorganized. You got to bring order to this, and it's okay that you're saying. I love the conversation. Like I know this very first time we're able to actually say it publicly, right? If the public really knew, if the public really knew what you just shared, and it's matched. Yeah, we get it done, but do you really know? The answer is no. It's okay, no different than Walensky at the CDC. She's like, okay, that's enough of this. You got to tell CDC like that. No, everything gets on hold. Right? So it's that definitive, like, no, you don't have to dance. Like, no, we know it. We know it's not there. So feel free to go in there with a definitiveness that says, okay, we need to change this. There's no holy grail. There's no sacred cow. It's like, this is the one area, like, right, this is that gets you in trouble. This is the area that really gets you in trouble. It's that spin. So I'm encouraging you. All you hear me like listen to everything you say. And it's just a conversation. Continue on. You're doing well. Madam Chair, I go back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Amons, to that, two things. One, I heard you say Excel spreadsheet. To me, that's a little antiquated and outdated. So I'm hoping, when you really, outline everything, that there will be another mechanism or another tool, technology that you can use to actually get this. Because one of the things that I wanted to see was an alignment of contracts, right? Mm-hmm. Beginning and end dates,
Yes.
So, yeah, that right there. And Director, I see your hand.
Yes. Be lower that. So just a quick comment, and yes, this issue regarding, and I won't call it an issue, just the thought behind contract approval, review, etc., is a part of a much larger conversation that we're having amongst staff and myself and Madam ACA in regards to just processes, county processes countywide, and the question being, what happens after the consent agenda is approved? Where do those items go? There was a process in place prior to the shift in administration. Some people have moved on, and and those responsibilities just kind of went out to never land, and we are feeling the effects of that, to say the least. So, in conversations, particularly in the meeting that we had just yesterday, this part of contract review was a part of that, and I was happy to hear that we have staff that have seen it both ways as far as contract approval, contract approved before legal has seen it, and contract approved after they've seen it. And interesting take on both sides. I, for one, will, I think that legal review of a contract prior to it coming to the Board of Commissioners is part of getting to that yes from you all. I think it gives you all a certain level of security to know that legal has already reviewed it, even though changes may still need to be made. They are aware of it. They are aware of the content of it, what's involved in it, so on and so forth. But I do, want to acknowledge Madam Procurement Director in that, we are looking at all of our processes currently, and this being a part of it. I would like Madam ACA to weigh in on that as well, because it's some things that we'll be bringing forth to the Board of Commissioners to take a look at, and give us a yes or a no as to whether you'd like to see us move forward with it.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to give credit to DCA Perry, because he's been very innovative in thinking of ways that we can improve processes. And one of the things that he instructed us to do was to come together with the procurement, the clerk. We all met, and our operations specialist, and actually looked at the process of contracts from the time they come on the agenda all the way to the end, And he has given us a great directive, in my opinion, to go ahead and start looking at improving that process and having a total process in place by November 1st. So we are in the process of doing that, working as a team. We have meetings scheduled, so we look forward to bringing more information to the board.
That's good to hear. I look forward to it, and I'm glad to know that we are no longer working in silos. If we all work, because these contracts hit multiple departments, right? They start from the bidding process all the way, to the time that they hit our agenda and beyond, until they hit Madam Chair's desk to be signed if they're approved. So that's good to know that you guys see that, have heard our cries, and are working towards that. And again, I'm hoping that you will look into some technology, software. Maybe we even have certain software that we probably could utilize to do this, because contract management is in and of itself, a whole different ball game. And I'm pretty sure Ms. Hobson, I know she's not on here, but I'm pretty sure Ms. Hobson can attest to that. You're trying to keep up with the moving pieces of contract that you have to fulfill. So yeah, thank you. We'll move on to our next agenda item, which is surplus.
Yes, it's a light topic. So, surplus. So, of course, I just drew a blank, but previously, I think it was 2011, the Board of Commissioners at that time passed a resolution that stated that the county administrator can approve the sale of surplus items up to $10,000. And so it didn't have to go before the board before the sale under that resolution. So anything under $10,000 can be sold and reported, and that sale or surplus of the dollar amount is reported to the board on a quarterly basis. And so surplus came up because I started, as we know, February 1. And I believe by March 1, I had an email about surplus items. And I'm like, surplus? Who has time for surplus? So it's like, no, we do have time for surplus. So I brought this up as a topic because I would like to go back to actually selling county goods, for lack of a better word, right? We have items that are sitting around, specifically the jail. They had mixers. We increase, we buy new things, and yet what do we do with the old? And there is a market out there for the old, whatever that is, and even some things that are new. I've talked about central procurement here, and central purchasing has items in our room that no one that we know of uses, but someone in the world will use it. And I will say VHS tapes. We have that in central purchasing. My goal is to take a picture and sell it. Online is interesting. The gentleman from GovDeals, that is who we do have an account with. We have used GovDeals before. We have sold items through GovDeals. And I'll speak in a minute on how that works. But they showed me yesterday that someone did put VHS tapes out there, and it did sell. So there may be some industry. So let me say this is how the program, or I envision it working. Probably every quarter, I will send an email to department heads and have them complete a form and say, do you have any items that you would like to sell, via surplus? It is as simple as taking a picture. This is something that's serialized. You upload the serial number. We post it on GovDeals, and there are other websites that I do plan to use as well, not just one, but GovDeals is the one that we do have a current relationship with, and they sell it. And at the end of the close of the sale, once the merchandise is picked up, I believe once a month, GovDeals will send the money back to the county on the particular sales. And so that is how it works. According to them, we can sell anything except drugs, animals, and people. So yes, that includes fleet. Yes, that includes a hammer. Yes, it includes equipment, computers. And so that way we can have funds come back into the county. Now, I'm not sure, and I'll talk to IT and our new CFO as far as assets and asset depreciation and how we get into the nuances. But yes, if we do have a fleet vehicle that we would like to sell, we can upload it. The system is easy. You just put the VIN number in, you post it. You can post it, 3 days, 5 days, and once it's sold, the buyer can come and pick it up. when he transferred titles. So just wanted to bring that. So if you see that, I do plan, of course, come back to the board saying this is what was sold. The monies will come back into the general fund. But there's a resolution. I just wanted to bring that is something that I would like to reinstate again for the county.
Thank you for that. I'll open the floor for any conversation regarding that. Vice Chair Robinson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, this is a good one. Back in 2011, I remember that the responsibility for that was it was our internal auditor was responsible for disposal of assets from phones, etc. And it was just sort of a soup. It was a surface approach. We really didn't go after it. We really didn't manage our assets per se. It was just the duties as assigned. And there was more to that. Yeah. But to your point, the policy, I would encourage you to bring that back to us. I would love to take a look at that. Okay. And to your point, there's thresholds, right? So for every asset class, to your point, less than $10,000, what is depreciation? So if it hits that dollar amount and hits that threshold, dispose of it. Now, how will you go about doing that? You have a full-time job, part-time job. How would you go about doing that? That's one. Second, I'm thinking of my sheriff who dispose of assets, cars, vehicles, guns, etc. Drug forfeiture, how does that wrap into this? Are you taking over that? Are y'all working in conjunction? Are we consistent? I'd like to make sure that there's an alignment. Okay. It's not just general government. Remember, we're responsible for also all assets, including constitutional elected officials. So it's just not general government stuff, it's IT and pencils and pens and stuff in our vehicles, but it's broadly. And so I would like to also make sure we include them as well, specifically him. He's the one with the biggest asset. You got the fire and EMS under direct control of obviously the administration. But that one I want you to make sure you consider, because that's a unique animal and there are rules associated with that, as you know, state law on how you dispose of assets out of that. So I would want to encourage that. But this is something that, to your point, right, we got stuff that's all in the closet. Get this stuff out of here. We need the space anyway. Why are we collecting stuff? Yes. Why are we hoarding stuff? Like, it's just, right, we're just going through life and stuff is just accumulating, but it's like, we need to dust this place off, man. Get this stuff out of here. So duly noted. I'm glad to hear that you're on this. Madam Chair, this is a good one right here. It is a quick win, but it's something that could bring us some value, sure that we tighten stuff up after we're done with it. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments in regards to the surplus program? If none, I say continue on, Ms. Ammons.
Yeah. Thank you. So the last item for new business, again, on a lighter note, is a brown bag lunch and learn series. And so I get a lot of questions, which is normal. But I plan to start. And again, I don't have a date, and I did say fourth quarter. But I say this, don't be surprised if you see an email and it's fourth quarter or first quarter, but I get a lot of questions about statewide contracts. And so I would like that will be my first topic for Brown Bag Lunch and Learn. And so the premise is we will have it about 11:30 or 12. People can come in, sit down, and learn about a particular topic out of procurement. But I am going to push that and look at my schedule for fourth quarter, especially leading into the new year. So, there are a lot of categories on the statewide contract that Douglas County can benefit from. We all think about the big one being a car, right? Statewide contract. Construction, statewide contract. But in IT, statewide contract. However, light bulbs on statewide contract, right? And so just to say the advantage of a statewide contract is a lot of the T's and C's are already negotiating. Pricing is fixed. Even for destruction, I work with Arbery on a statewide vendor. A lot of things already there, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Don't have to always go out for 3 quotes. It's just an easy win at times. You have lawnmowers on statewide contract, ATVs, UTVs on statewide contracts, facility management's on statewide contracts, playground equipment. And so there are a lot of statewide contracts, but a lot of people just aren't aware. You can use them as far as price comparison, right? If you're interested, there could be a vendor that is cheaper and can still give the same value. And so we can also use a statewide contract as leverage, right? Someone who is on a statewide contract and their price is favorable. And then we say, but I like the state terms and conditions. Can you give me those and use that as leverage? That is how we are negotiating. And then also with, oh, I apologize. My phone just went haywire. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Also, with statewide contracts, we have cooperative agreements as well, and so we can use cooperative agreements. Same premise as a statewide contract. That will be my first brown bag lunch and learn. Will be statewide contracts. I have on my board as a second one surplus sales. So again, it's developing that program. I do want to have a lunch and learn to kind of bring people in so we can talk about that countywide. And the benefits of it and how it can work. So that's number 2. And then number 3, again, going into next year is informal bids. So a lot of people understand RFPs and large solicitations, but so what is an informal bid? So what we hear a lot in procurement is, I can't get 3 quotes. I can't get 4 quotes. And so BidNet, the system that we use for our formal solicitation, also allows for informal solicitations. So if you needed a brown bag and you need, to get quotes, people have the ability to go out there and hit the submit button, I need brown bags, and see who will respond. You get your 3 quotes, you make a price decision, and we're able to use that to help drive down costs, right? We tend to use the same vendors all the time, so we kind of know where our price point is. But since we don't go out to market, we really don't know if we're receiving the best price, right? A lot of times we have vendors that get into collusion. And so if we use the same 3 all the time, then their prices remain the same and close together all the time. But if you open it up to competition, then maybe their price isn't the best, but they can still give the same value. And so that would be the third topic we'll talk about is informal bids. And that's all I have on the agenda today.
Thank you so much. I absolutely love the Brown Bag Lunch and Learn series. I'm looking forward to that. I'm learning from you. This is my first time I'm having to deal with procurement in this arena, and you are a breath of fresh air and a lot of knowledge. So I think I will be attending some of those. And to your very point with inflation, as the county, we definitely need to be making sure that we're utilizing all of the tools in the toolbox to ensure that we're getting the best pricing for those services and those goods that we continue to purchase. So I think that would be a great thing. So thank you for that. Are there any discussions regarding the Brown Bag Lunch and Learn series?
Yes.
Vice Chair Robinson, you have the floor.
No, I thank you. I love it. I'll be willing to sponsor the lunch if you need me to. Seriously.
I'll put you down for lunch.
Yeah, I got it. But to your point, and again, I appreciate the conversation because it provokes thoughts. The Board of Commissioners, procurement is something that now we finally, I believe we've got the right person in play to help us accomplish broader objectives. One of the things that's important for us is local. In other words, other considerations. To your point, Douglas County has historically been very close to business, right? It's my family and friends. We try to stress that to be more inclusive of that, right? Okay, there's other people here that need a shot, that need to grow. And then you've got, obviously, the objective you're talking about, which is statewide contracts. Well, am I registered at state or am I registered at local? I just ask, as you go forward with your narrative, you're thinking, how do you align all of this not to be in conflict? Right? In other words, not just 1%. I get the value of that, as long as it doesn't undermine this value of what we're promoting here. And there's a way to align it all. There's a way to there's situations and conditions and scenarios in which you pick all of these, all the tools that Madam Chair just said, tools and toolkits you guys just made reference, but it's aligning it all. And so as you start this journey, I'm always about alignment. Like is aligning all of it. So I'm great. We're finally opening state contracts, but did that now displace finally opening up to those people who are paying the taxes here locally? Mm-hmm. And if this some kind of undermines the goal of taking now doing state contract, if the state list, these are most people outside of Douglas, then that has perhaps a direct impact on the objective. That like, okay, look, we need to have local, what we call first consideration. At least consider them, but don't skip them to go outside to this much broader and that they didn't even get considered. And what does that mean? How do I get registered on both? So at least I'm in both worlds and stuff. So something to think about as you go forth is just alignment. And so I'll just leave it at that. It's just consider that part right there. That's all I wanted to share that. Madam Chair, no more this week. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Vice Chair Robinson. Great point. And I think Ms. Amos, what that's going to lend to, look, you and I talked about this. You open one thing and then it turns into something else. But I am going to put one thing on your agenda. Vice Chair Robinson always does the annual how to do business within, around Douglas. And so to that very point, we do give consideration to local businesses. So local business preference and a DBE and MBE preference. So to that point, I would say when we invite you to the next one, like when he invites you, I didn't already invited myself to his next one.
Right.
To make sure you reference that, So, but I think this is good. Thank you so much for this. Is there any other items to come before the Purchasing Oversight Committee?
I just have two more like announcements, but not necessarily an item. Of course, purchasing related. So this morning I attended Gwinnett County's 14th annual supplier networking event. And so, I talk about statewide contracts, but I do have a heart for small businesses, right? And small businesses, not just them providing a service or a good for us, but also helping small businesses grow. And so I've met a lot this morning. My email is increasing with emails, but I love it. And so if any of the other department heads are on here, I want to apologize right now because I passed out your name this morning, right? Give Gary a call, give Michelle a call. Yes, some of them have previously done business with us, but the goal is because a lot of people, not a lot, but I had to remind them that Douglas County really is a metro county. We're right here. And today I kept saying Six Flags in Douglas County. I mean, like if you're going to Six Flags, you're right here, so come and see us. Met a great landscaping company this morning. I was doing connections. We talked about litter cleanup. Met a company this morning. Talked about hauling. Met a company this morning. And so, yes, most of those vendors were on the other side. But I guess my point is, my heart is with the small businesses. And just wanted to say we did make connections. We're trying to grow, trying to encourage them to, yes, register on BidNet, because if we do go out for a bid, we have to follow those policies, that procedure. But yes, give me a call if we need you, if I can use you. I will call you. It may not be today, and so I did it, but it may be soon. And so it was a great event this morning. Kudos to Gwinnett County for hosting that event. And then for a second announcement, I leave tomorrow to attend the NIGP conference. I'll be gone a week, and I will be returning again with a bag full of tchotchkes and visiting other vendors to learn. It's never a vacation, but it's to learn, right? What other services and products are out there and can help us in Douglas County. We talked about a contract management tool. Yes, we have contract module in New World, but that's not necessarily contract management, right? We talk about DBE and MBE. I didn't put on the agenda today, but that is coming up in a program and tools to help us manage that office, right? It is a complete office, and also the sustainability. And to the public, MBE and DBE doesn't mean it's just making sure that everyone has a hand in the pie. It's just the distribution and not to take business away. But DBE and MBE is also, subcontractor spend as well. But how do we, we need to report that, but do we have the tools? And so that's also another point of going to the conference, in addition to learning and growing and becoming a more effective procurement professional. So I will be there, of course, available. But just wanted to let you all know in the public that procurement does have a soft spot for me. And again, not just big business, but the little business as well. Because everyone has to come through procurement. So we're not here to tell you what to spend. We just try to guide you on the best way to spend your dollars. And so with that, I yield.
Thank you so much for that. Enjoy your conferences and learn, and come back and implement.
Yes.
All right.
Madam Chair?
Yes, you have the floor, Vice Chair.
Yeah, just that point. I'm just realizing, yes, go to that conference and to Mr. DCA, let's make sure she's not using her personal credit card to facilitate that. I don't think I saw her name on the list of people getting the P card. I understand she has a fiduciary responsibility, but she leads the way. She shows us the seriousness of how to use this card appropriately. So I want to make sure whether she intentionally or unintentionally doesn't have one, she needs to have one, because you should not have to incur expenses like this on behalf of the county to get reimbursed later. You should not be the float. That's all I got to say, Madam Chair. I yield back.
Thank you for that.
And Madam Chair, Vice Chair, to that point, it is intentional at this point, but we are figuring out a way to make that happen. And we're gonna make it happen. Because she and I have had conversation about it, and it's necessary for for what we're trying to accomplish with this program. So we'll let you know when we've found a path forward.
I know that is a very sensitive spot, because she is able to go in, cut off, cut on, do things. And so she wants to protect herself as well as, ensure that there is integrity in regards to that. So I get it, Ms. Amons. I understand, but Vice Chair knows he and I both have had to float our own stuff. And so we know how it is. So I'm hoping, we may be able to come to some type of agreement as to you not having to use your own.
Here's a suggestion, Madam Chair, make for an authorized user under Deputy County Administrator. I'll show y'all how to do it. We can talk about this offline. Here's the way to go forward. Keep her from having her own input. This is easy. All right, go.
Look at that professionalism. See? The thing, this is his lane. Thank you for that, Vice Chair Robinson.
Yes.
If there's no more discussion, great job, you guys. Thank you so much, Ms. Amons, for all you do, and for the entire board and all of those departments that have helped to make this procurement committee meeting a great one. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. And with that, this meeting stands adjourned.